What is up? It is another week of fantasy football in the NFL. I am Nate Cheat, and I'm standing in for Ricky Rodrigue today. I guess is that my seat, Ricky, or I don't know. He's a little smarter than I am when it comes to this stuff. But I am, of course, joined with Shawn of the Bed. He is the staple on this show. And a welcome into Johnny freaking F1, Johnny Christoffi. Welcome to the show. What's going on, guys?
Thank you for having me. Excited about today.
Thank you for coming on. For those tuning in, you know the drill. We're here to answer all your start-sit questions. And, you know, as it says at the top of the screen, we do like to get to every single one of them. So make sure send in those questions in the chat. We're going to pop them up below and answer them. But as always, make sure you're going to idpplus.com, become a subscriber, get access to all the great tools, the great content. We have just a ton of stuff for you to win your fantasy leagues. And also, don't forget to go to our partners at Trophy Smack and get yourself some hardware. Show off that fantasy championship with some nice trophy from Trophy Smack. So with that, let's see. Should we go around real quick? You can see everyone's Twitter handles, but like, what are you guys up to, Johnny? What kind of content are you producing this season?
So I'm still doing IDP Plus trends once a week with my co-host Steve at AVGJoes _FF. So in addition to that, I've also started a betting show with Axeman, Axton Harding. We just dropped our first episode a couple nights ago. We got a good tackle props is what we look at. Might be assisted tackles, might be combined, might be solos. So we're out there, hunting good odd bets when it comes to IDP tackle props. That's our specialty. No offense with that show.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've been tailing you guys and making a little bit of money. I put in, $50-$60 in between you guys and the college betting show with Billy Homebrevender. His Twitter handle is interesting, but been watching a lot more college, and I cashed out a solid check last week. So, Shawn, I know that you're involved with some of that betting stuff, but what else are you up to?
Yeah, I'm mostly sitting around in the Discord chats trying to help out everywhere I can there. And hold on, I just got a message from Ricky. It said, "Have a good show, guys. Make sure Rougarou is welcomed, and Joe Burrow, no matter what." So, if everybody remembers last week,
yeah, that was
we got him.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Let's kick into some questions here. And we've got one coming all the way from Germany, from Fantasy Breakout. Wow. He says, "Greetings from Germany. Limited time today. So let's start it off with 3 starts, 1 per position. First is defensive lineman. He needs to start 1. Chris Jones, Will Anderson, Carl Granderson, or Jeffrey Simmons. Johnny, it's the first time on the show for you, so what are your thoughts here?
My thoughts in here is with defensive linemen, I like to minimize the risk. Don't chase the sacks. So these guys I'm looking at here, I'm looking at Carl Granderson. I believe he has the safest tackle floor. It's an in-division game. These other guys, I've checked lines. I've seen these guys tackle over and unders. Carl Granderson, I think he's maybe 3.5 right now. Simmons is a little bit lower. Chris Jones is probably your big play sack guy. Will Anderson, I do like the matchup. I do think he might get to Caleb, but Caleb's pretty elusive. And I think we'll wait another week on Will Anderson. So give me Granderson. I think he has the least amount of risk. And in division game, I think he has a safe tackle floor.
Nice. What do you think, Shawn?
I think I'm swinging for the fences here and taking Chris Jones.
Okay. Yeah. It all depends on what you need to get done during the week. So, like, if you need to be safe, you've got the projection over your opponent, and you just need to not have a 0 in your lineup. Going the safe way with Granderson, I think, is the right choice. But if you need to swing for the fences, you need to get over on a opponent that might have a couple better players. Then Chris Jones is definitely that guy that could do it if you're probably going to possibly lose that matchup anyways. So,
well, we've seen the Patriots get through there and throw down a few sacks on Burrow with Keon White, really running through the middle there. So if he can do it, Chris Jones, all elite.
Yeah, Chris Jones is elite. All right, let's go into the second question here. This one's at linebacker for Fantasy Breakout from Germany. Needs one of these guys: C.J. Mosley, Eric Kendricks, Levante David, Kaiser White. He did say please include rest of season. So I'm guessing pick one for this week, and then who are you riding the rest of the year? Let's go throw this over to you, Shawn.
Oh boy, these are some pretty good choices. Kendricks, I feel, is a bit boomer bust with those sacks and the interceptions and everything he got last week. Do not expect that every week. He and Mosley are getting kind of old. Levante David isn't young either. I think for consistency throughout the whole season, it's going to be David or White. Now, I'm actually leaning White here.
All right. What about you, Johnny?
So, I mean, if you look at recent performance, Eric Kendricks coming off with dehydration, huge game. It's tough to pass that up, but I just don't think that the game flow is going to be the same way. I'm going to go both pencil and Kaiser White. I'm with Shawn. I think this is the safest move. I think that, Rams and the Cardinals game is absolute a diamond matchup for all IDP players involved. Kaiser White, number one on that list. So I'm going to take Kaiser White not only this week, but rest of the season amongst these guys. And you got some good options there too. Those are good problem to have.
Gotcha. Yeah, and let's answer the question that wasn't asked, which is if he's looking at rest of the season and he's got these many players, he might be looking, or could he be looking to move one of these guys for another position? I'm thinking of like Eric Kendricks. Let's say he has another good game this week, but let's say it includes a interception or something. Are you moving an Eric Kendricks when he's at the top of his value? Any of these other guys? I'll take it back to Shawn here.
Yeah, if Kendricks balls out again, I don't know if this is dynasty or redraft, whatever. He is definitely the one I would move because I do think he is the most likely to kind of regress in a lot of these games or have possible low scores, where the others I feel a little more safer with. So yeah, if he pops off, you can get a good trade for him. Yeah, take it.
Gotcha. What do you think, Johnny?
100% in agreement. I mean, Levante David, if you try to throw him out in a trade, people are going to say he's older. He really didn't put up the stats week one, so maybe there's hesitancy. When it comes to Hendricks, he did it, and he maybe overperformed a little bit compared to my rankings. So, yeah, I'd already be sending trades, getting Hendricks out of there and trying to get an upgrade maybe at an offensive position because, I mean, Levante David, Mosley, these are great fallback guys. Like, just plug those guys in. If somebody thinks that Kendricks is like that, go ahead, send them, get some value elsewhere, and play it smart with these guys. Mosley, Levante, Kaiser, we know who they are. We know who they're going to be, not only this week, but the rest of the season.
Gotcha. There we go. And then let's go to his final question here. Fantasy Breakout out of Germany. He says, last, with Winfield injured, which defensive back should I pick up and start? So we're taking one of these guys. Buda Baker, Tyreek Stevenson, Jaquan Brisker, Alante Taylor, that's Minka Fitzpatrick, or it's a Bucks DB to be named later. Johnny, let's start off with you here. What are your thoughts?
So I think the Bucks DB to be named later would be Jordan Whitehead, and that's a good move. But when you got Jaquan Brisker, you got Buda Baker there, he doesn't make the cut. So let's see if he really does step up. Jordan Whitehead and have a great game. Maybe that's a week 3 pickup. But right now, I mean, it doesn't matter even who they're playing. Like I just think Jaquan Brisker is a top 4, top 5 defensive back. I do love the matchup, like I said, with the Rams. So Buda Baker, I think, is a safe play too. But I'm chasing safe play mixed with high upside. I mean, you got Chicago going against Houston, and I think that's going to be, a lot of offense and a lot of opportunities for Brisker to make big plays as far as and as well as the safe tackle floor. So I'm going to roll with Jaquan Brisker, and I'd say Buda Baker's a close second here.
Nice. Shawn, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with him. We seen last week the Colts safeties, both of them went off, had a lot of tackles. The Texans are going to be on the field a lot. So there's going to be a lot of tackle opportunities, and Brisker's probably the better of the group here. Bootbaker out there with him, it should be another high scoring, high tackle game for him as well. But like I said, looking at the Bears and the Texans, it should be just like it was last week for Houston. They're going to be on the field a lot of tackle opportunities. We've seen Julian Blackman and Nick Frost both, like I say, go off lots of tackles for those guys. I expect that again this week.
Gotcha. There we go. All right. And before we get into more questions here, I just want to say, thank you to everyone that's tuned in, watching. Make sure and send us your start sit questions. We're tackling IDP. We're tackling offense. Hey, we'll even talk any betting options you're looking at. Just send us those questions. We're going to, as it says, we try to get to every single question. So here we go. We're going to keep on going with Brenton Smith, who asks a linebacker question here. He's looking at Wagner, Mosley, Bolton, or the newcomer Bond. Let's go to you, Johnny, and see who are you starting here. And I want your thoughts on Zach Bond and just his breakout this last week. And do you think that's sustainable?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, I wasn't high on the guy coming in. I mean, it's just the golden opportunity that he got. Devin White was hurt. I don't really believe in Nakobe Dean. So, I mean, yeah, he's in a great spot. If he was on a different team, no, I wouldn't believe in him. But here on Philly, when they have a void at linebacker, when he has 2 sacks, double-digit tackles, yeah, I'm going to believe it and ride him till the wheels fall off. I mean, it's tough to take him over like a Bobby Wagner, and Mosley. I don't love the matchup versus Tennessee. Maybe they find a way to run, a good bit. I feel like that game's going to be pretty competitive. Nick Bolton, I'm kind of down on. I'd be interested. I don't have it right up with me, but a good thing to look at that would be like Nick Bolton. Go to StatMuse and type in like Nick Bolton versus the Bengals and see what his stat line. If he's putting double-digit tackles in that game, maybe that sways you a little bit. He had a down week last week, maybe not completely healthy. I think to me, I do agree with the high upside. I think if you're chasing, reaching for the stars, go Zach Bond here. But to me, it's tough to pass up Bobby Wagner. Again, it's like one of those things, Nate, how you said, what do you need? Are you in a good position to win? Take Bobby Wagner, get your 10 points and move on. If you're maybe you had Curtis Samuel in that lineup with, 1 catch and you need high upside now, I'd play Bond.
Gotcha. Shawn, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued with Bond here because we have seen this defense make stars out of Alex Singleton, T.J. Edwards, just Kaiser White a few years ago as well. Anybody that steps on this field as linebacker has potential to go off every week, and he showed a big difference in being moved into more of a traditional off-ball linebacker position from where he was being played as more of an edge rusher, kind of a rotational guy. I think he was just playing out of place all these years in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely putting him in. I'm starting. 10 tackles is 10 tackles. Wagner would be my second option. I'm worried about that matchup just being sloppy for both teams, and I'm just kind of avoiding that. Mosley, a bit of a wild card. He can pop off, or he could get you 3 tackles. Bolton, I don't trust against Cincinnati. That offense did not look the greatest. I don't think there would be a whole lot of opportunities there. This isn't the Bengals team we seen in the playoffs years ago. They're not there yet. So I'm riding with Bond. I want to see where this train goes.
There we go. All right. Well, Brenton comes back with a defensive back question here. And he says, Tony Adams, Cameron Bynum, or Newbin. And let's go back to you, Shawn. Who are you taking? Who are you starting here?
I think these are all really good options. Might be leaning towards Bynum here just because I expect the 49ers to have a really good game against the Vikings here. I think there'll be more tackle opportunities for him. Whereas Adams is probably my second choice. I don't think it's the greatest matchup against Tennessee, but I do think it'll be more opportunities than, say, Newbin will get, especially with, like I say, two, bad offenses really going at it here. It's hard to predict. I feel safer taking Bynum in this.
All right. Johnny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on Bynum. The stats weren't there last week, but chalk that game up, throw it away. It wasn't like an authentic game. So, to me, Cameron Bynum, you're not looking at him and you're satisfied from last week, but this is still top 8, top 12 defensive back. So me, it's Bynum number 1. Then it comes to Tony Adams. Let me remind you, like he did have 12 tackles and a sack, but this guy, we've seen him do this before. You pick him up, then the next week he gets you 2 tackles, nothing else, So high upside, low floor. And then Newbin, I do respect. I like Tyler Newbin a lot. I think he grows with time. Safe floor, but playing, Washington there with Jaden Daniels not being able to throw the ball much last week. We'll see if he can do that. But I wouldn't really test those waters when you got a guy like Cam Bynum. I think that's a easy plug in and move on. Reach for the stars. You have a safe floor with Bynum, and I think he gets at least 5 or 6 tackles in this game, like Shawn mentioned. Good matchup versus San Francisco.
There we go. All right, moving on to Stephen Smith here. Not Stephen A, but I think I asked this question before, but who do I start out of these 3? Al Shahir, EJ Speed, Kaiser White, or CJ Mosley? Looks like we're picking one, and there are 4 players, and we're going to ask that to Johnny. What do you think? Who are you starting?
This is another really, really good problem to have. Probably, trade off some depth if you have these 3 guys. It might be a deeper league. I'm not sure what the situation is, but again, going back to just the safest floor and high upside, I think I'll take Kaiser White here. I do love EJ Speed. He's over and under 9.5, so Vegas likes him in this game. So do I. But I just think this game, the Rams versus the Cardinals is Kaiser White's written all over it. Safe floor, high upside. So to me, don't Azeez Al-Shaair had some concerns last week, didn't look good. I'm not banking on him yet when you have this good of selections. So to me, it's just Kaiser White, plug it in and move forward and see where you get next week.
Gotcha. Shawn, are you on the White train, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Johnny here. It's such a great matchup for both these teams with the Rams and Cardinals. Kaiser White's the top guy here. I don't know what to think about EJ Speed. The Packers, Malik Willis is awful. I've watched him play in Tennessee for last year and all that, and it was just absolute trash. If they can get the running game going, though, EJ Speed could rack up a bunch of tackles, but those are big ifs. Al-Shaair is more of a tackle assist guy. He doesn't get the solos that we really want to really boost our points. And Mosley's got a decent matchup, but I think the safest, best bet here is White.
There we go. All right, let's move on to SRM, who says pick 2 of these defensive ends, please. You got Granderson, Hubbard, Patrick Jones, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Darrell Taylor. Let's go with you, Shawn. Let's go back to you.
I think Granderson is the easy one here for me. I want to say Hubbard just because of the tackle opportunities. Patrick is more boomer bust, I would say. I haven't seen enough of him to really trust him yet. DeMarcus Lawrence, another guy who could go off, get 2 sacks, or get nothing. And Darrell Taylor just came out of nowhere last week against a very terrible Tennessee offensive line. He doesn't have a terrible Tennessee offensive line this week, so I'm kind of shying away from him a little bit. Granderson is for sure my guy. I think I'm actually going to put in Marcus Lawrence just for the big play upside here.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts, Johnny?
See, I feel Shawn. I think he took a good route there. Lawrence, can he do back-to-back big games? To me, that's a question mark. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. That's a fine play. I'm actually going to go. I agree with Shawn that Granderson's the shoe in here, ink him in. And then I'm actually going to chase the upside, kind of the Zach Bond effect with Darrell Taylor. See if it's real. Not only did he have multiple sacks, he was fine in the tackle department. So I'm not really sure what kind of role he's playing, if that was just a fluke game. But hey, let's. I mean, this is a volatile position. some of these other guys might have to get sacks to make their name. If you can get a guy close to double-digit tackles the week before, yeah, roll him out again. I don't think it's a zero floor. So I think he might not hurt you too much, but there's definitely upside there. And Shawn made a good point that the opposing offense isn't the same, but we'll see if he plays the snaps and can do this in week 2, back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick shout out to IDP Plus Bets. I'm pretty sure this is our guy Gary. He says best live IDP in fantasy football, NFL start sit show in the industry. I'd have to agree. But also, hey, if you're watching this and you don't know, we have a sister channel, a connected channel, IDP Plus Bets, where we're putting together a ton of great shows and episodes on weekly bets to place in season. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I've been tailing a lot of those recommendations and have made a good amount of money, which has been pretty awesome. So, I do recommend go over there. Obviously, the standard disclaimer, it's all for entertainment. And if you do have a problem gambling, there is a toll-free number to call. Don't bet your mortgage. But if you like to have a little bit of fun, hey, we're producing some great content over there. Make sure and subscribe to that channel as well. If you go to our main IDP Plus YouTube channel, it'll have all 3 of our YouTubes there that you can subscribe to. And so with that, let's go back to Steven, not A. Smith. And I'm afraid of DK this week, matching up against Christian Gonzalez. Should I start Najee over him based off Najee's matchup? So, Johnny, are you feeling DK Metcalf or Najee Harris this week?
It's tough. It's tough to sit DK Metcalf in any week. It's early. Maybe the greasy wheel gets squeaked here. I wouldn't be surprised if DK had a nice game, but yeah, it's good intuition. And I had this conversation with Steve, my co-host in Trends. He brought up a good point, the same point that Steven's bringing up here. I mean, Christian Gonzalez did a nice job in week 1, on coverage. And I do think, if this is a tough matchup for Najee, I would say stay with DK just on the upside. But I think this Denver and Pittsburgh game is going to be a lot of running back involvement. I'm not really too worried about Jaylen Warren taking many touches. I mean, he might be the passing back, but I mean, I do expect Pittsburgh to be up in this game. Maybe Najee gets a touchdown. Maybe he gets 2. So I think this is actually a good move here to sit DK, as tough as that is. But I think Najee here, this is his game script. So you're in the right place, right time with Najee.
Yeah, these tough starts decisions, this year I feel a little bit relieved because I've taken the advice of Santa and joined a bunch of those best ball leagues that with in-season management. And I got to say, having only 1 or 2 teams to start out of the normal 20 teams just makes, it would put us out of business if we talk too much about it. So let's go to you, Shawn. What are your thoughts here? You taking DK or Najee? I'm assuming this is probably a flex spot.
I would think so. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to put these 2 guys in the same spot. But I think Johnny nailed it. This Patriots defense looked really good last week, and I think most of us underestimated it after seeing last year how bad it was. But they were dealing with so many injuries last year. I think we all kind of forgot that these guys, they play the matchups really well. They really took care of the Bengals. Game script, it's going to be nothing but running. I think Najee is good this week. I think his gut here was already showing him the way, and he should trust it.
There we go. All right. We got fantasy sports. He says, "Sup guys? Which 2 safeties should I start? Hamilton, Curl, Lake, or Delpit? And should he drop any for Newbin?" So let's toss in this. So picking 2, and then if you pick Newbin, who are you dropping? Let's go back to you, Shawn.
All right. So Hamilton's your wild card here. He could be lots of points or no points. Curl I really liked before I seen his usage. He is playing more deep, and the guy playing up near the line is Lake. I have not heard if Lake is playing for sure today or not, so that's if he is going to play, then I think Lake is one of the starts, and I think Delpit is the other guy I would start. I'm not sure I would drop anybody for Nuba just yet. I did like his usage last week, and I think he shows a lot of upside. But I would make sure that it's a trend and not just a fool's gold here before I go and rush for that.
Sure. All right, Johnny. What are your thoughts here? What 2 safeties are you taking, and would you be dropping any of them for Newbin?
You know what? I agree with the Lake, and that was a guy who was highly touted. You know, people expected that out of him. I believe it was a double-digit tackle game last week. I don't know if he's going to hit that. Plus, he's questionable at a 4:00 game, which makes it a little bit nerve-wracking. I mean, it's not a Monday night, but it is a 4:00 Eastern time game. So to me, like, and the thing about Kyle Hamilton is you got to ride this wave. Like, if you have Kyle Hamilton, there's going to be games where he gets 2 tackles. I think that happened actually week 1 of last year, had a weak output for fantasy. A lot of people didn't start him the next week. Then he had a pick 6, big game. So I think the reverse is going to happen for Hamilton. I think he's going to have the big game this week, just kind of like a gut feeling on that. And then if Lake is, banged up, then I think Cameron Curl, is going to be the guy who we thought he is. So I wouldn't really, there's a chance that that Quentin Lake is ruled out. I don't think it's high percentage, maybe 40, 60, but don't take the risk. I think Cam Curl, like, we're overlooking him a little bit because he didn't do much week 1, and Quentin Lake had this great week. So I think Cameron Curl's a safe play to pair along Hamilton. Those are the 2 that I'd go. Delpit has high upside, but he has a very low floor. I don't love the matchup with Jacksonville. Should be decent, but I don't think it's like oozing, like a Tampa Bay, Detroit type of game. And as far as like the Newbin thing, I don't think you need to overlook Tyler Newbin and throw away like Cam Curl. I like where you're at. I don't think that Newbin move needs to be made. Just keep an eye on it. If Newbin, goes double-digit tackles this week, maybe you reevaluate that. But for right now, Hamilton and Curl is the guys I'm starting. If Lake was 100% healthy, I love the matchup. Maybe it's a different story, but I think just stay safe here. Hamilton and Curl.
Gotcha. All right, let's do another safety question here from SRM. He says, pick 2. We got Chin, Shamari Connor, Peppers, or Donovan Wilson. Johnny, let's go back to you. Which 2 of these safeties stand out?
This is probably a deep league, not great options. But to me, I'm gonna say, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna take Peppers. Peppers had a solid week last week. I saw him vibing out with Mayo. He was a spark plug on that defense. So I think he's a safe floor here. Probably only going to get 4 or 5 tackles, but the other guys I think offer lower floors. And then another low floor but high upside guy is Jeremy Chin. We didn't really see the results last week, but maybe that's the process of him getting eased in. Quan Martin is a safety who I'd actually put a peg higher than Jeremy Chin for this week. Things could change, but I think Jeremy Chin's your highest upside, your best start here. And then I think Jabril Peppers, you mix in a little bit of, guaranteed playing time and should be a good game. And the defense looks good there. So I'll take Chin and Peppers.
There we go. Shawn, what are your thoughts here?
Now, I'm right there with him. Peppers, again, on that, surprisingly good Patriots defense. He was one of the factors in that. I like his tackle ability there. Chin underproduced, but his alignments were great. He was up there by the line of scrimmage. It could be rust. It could just be the Bobby Wagner being there to taking all the tackles away. But he is in the prime position to get those tackles, and eventually we'll start to see that production spike up.
Nice. There we go. Let's move on to some linebackers from Fantasy Sports. Let's see. Linebacker start versus this is Franklin versus weak. Oh, okay. So do you start Franklin versus a weak Green Bay offense or start Blake Cashman? So are you taking Franklin or Cashman is the question here. And let's send it back to Shawn.
I'm going to hate myself for seriously considering Blake Cashman here. but I think he's the right call here because the Niners will be on the field a lot. They are going to pound Jordan Mason, and he is the main linebacker for that Vikings defense. So I'm leaning Cashman. Franklin probably disappointed just a little bit last week. I do expect this Green Bay offense to be terrible. I really do. I'm kind of out on it.
They're going to run through Josh Jacobs, and it could be.
I think it's going to be Jacobs, probably Lloyd, and who was the other guy Thursday night? Wilson? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I think you have to pound those three over and over and over. Malik Willis, you cannot trust him to throw. EJ Speed is there as competition to rack up some of those tackles too. That's another reason I'm a little more off of Franklin. I like this matchup for Cashman here.
There we go. Johnny, what do you think? You on board with that?
You know, it's crazy to think like Zaire Franklin, a guy who was drafted as a top 3, top 5 linebacker. I was not on board, him being a top 3 last week, the last 7 games of the regular season when EJ Speed took over in that starting role. EJ Speed actually averaged more tackles than Zaire Franklin. Zaire Franklin went down from 11.4 to 7.5, which is fine, but it's not that LB1 number. So that's kind of got reflected in week 1, too. So maybe that trend sticks. Nate, I agree with you that Green Bay probably tries to run, and that may look good for Franklin. Run early and try to, use their strength. I don't see that panning out for them too well. I think they're going to have to throw pretty quick. And plus Malik Willis running, like this isn't, Derrick Henry running down the middle and guys making tackles. Like maybe he finds the outside edges, runs out of bounds. There's not really that really potential to rack up a lot of tackles. I don't really see Green Bay's offense sustaining drives, so maybe that keeps them on the field longer. So you've got a bunch of back and forth, things at stake here, possibilities. But to me, I just think that Blake Cashman, like he's over 8.5 tackles. His over under is 8.5 on DraftKings. They're high on him. I think this is a safe game for Blake Cashman, and I think that's why I'm going to roll with him. I just think that versus a San Francisco offense, he's good for at least 7 or 8 tackles combined. So I think the safe call here, don't sweat it, just play Cashman, and that's crazy to think, but that's the world we live in, and it just comes down to matchups and right time, right place. So give me Cashman.
There we go. All right, let's switch over to the defensive line here with TM. He needs to drop one of these guys. Gregory Rousseau, Danielle Hunter, Keon White, or Greenard. Johnny, let's go back to you. Who are you dropping, and why is it not Keon White?
Yeah, I mean, Keon White is the guy who I was talking on podcasts about, like, hey, if you're in a deep defensive lineman league, this guy's down in the hundreds on rankings, but take a chance on him. Well, that chance paid off. So there's my victory lap with Keon White. And I think that, his alignment, I watched Bill Belichick talk about after the fact now, but I knew it before too. He just can play all over the defensive line. So I don't think he's like really a guy that has to get that sack to make his mark. And having 2 sacks, I believe it was 2 or 2.5. Anytime you have that kind of potential, that's especially in leagues that have over 5 or more points per sack. That's really a great guy to get. So this is a really, really bad question because you don't really want to drop any of these guys. I do think Rousseau is real. I don't think he's getting you, double-digit sacks a game. Hunter's upside as far as tackle floor and sacks is just too high. So I'm just gonna, take the easiest way out and say Jonathan Grenard is the one I'm gonna axe here.
Gotcha. Shawn, are you on board with that? Are you letting Greenard go see greener pastures?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Rousseau, he's blowing up this year. You're not cutting Danielle Hunter. That's crazy talk. He maybe was overdrafted, but the Texans defense was barely on the field last week. So it's harder to get those sacks when you're not out there very much. And White looks like a really fun player. Like Johnny said, moving all around that defensive line. Seeing him blow up was really great. It was a nice surprise. Somebody's got to lead that Patriots defense, and it looks like it's him.
Yeah. So, we're looking at this question is probably a game day. He's got to drop somebody. But with any of these, are you let's say we have a trade situation. Are any of these guys someone you would be trying to trade? Like, would you try and get that, move Keon White and get that added? You probably got him for a ham sandwich, and now you might be able to get someone pretty nice. Like, are you moving him or any of these guys in a trade situation? Johnny, I'm going to go to you. You shook your head pretty quickly.
I like that move. Anytime you can get a guy from rags to riches and he's sitting I mean, we're talking about dropping Jonathan Grenard, who is a great player, his duration of his career. I know it's a different team now. It's a little bit different vibe, but yeah, I mean, this is a crazy time. He can go back and have 2 tackles. That's it this week, unfortunately. And then his value dips significantly as far as, value to other people. So if you have guys like we're talking about, sitting DK Metcalf and Olave, like this is an instantaneous world we live in fantasy. So people want to see, Keon White go for their team and do big things. So I think Keon White, having Grenard dropping him, I think is a little bit overreacted. But if you can trade Keon White and fall back on these 3 guys, I think that's a fine move. If you can cash out big, if you're not getting that big cash out, keep them, drop Grenard. But if you can, get that big move, then I say move White right now while the getting's good.
Gotcha. What do you think, Shawn? And one question I didn't ask as part of this is like, what's the value you think you could get? Like, obviously that all depends on your league and everything, but are you looking to get like a top 3 rookie pick, like round rookie pick? So like 1 to 3, depending on league values. Are you looking for another player? What are your thoughts there, Shawn?
It really depends on the roster. If I'm weak somewhere else, maybe my linebackers are terrible, and I would, maybe trade for, at least a solid LB2, if not a low end LB1. As far as the straight up draft picks, it's very rare to find a league where you can get a first or second round pick for somebody like Keon White, and it's very rare you can get a first round pick for any IDP, which is sad, but it's the reality we live in. But yeah, if for a guy like White, if you are going to trade him, I'm looking for whatever weakness I have. Probably defense. If not, usually you can get a decent tight end or a middle ranking wide receiver or something like that.
Gotcha. All right. Let's move on to the second question from TM. How do you rank this group rest of season? So just put these guys in order. Dodson, Cashman, Long Jr. I'm going to go back to you, Shawn. What are your thoughts rest of the season for these guys?
I'm going to put Long first. And part of that's he's been playing 100% of the defense snaps both weeks so far. So he is back to a full-time role. As long as he's healthy, he's my top guy out of this group. And judging by the Dolphins' recent issues, looks like they are going to be on the field a lot more on defense going forward. Terrell Dodson is my next guy playing in Seattle. That stat crew, the defense that they've set up, he's in a similar situation with Long. He's playing all the snaps. He's the main guy there, I think. And then Cashman, putting him last. He is a bit of a wild card for me. It feels gross to like Cashman at all, but we just talked him up a few minutes ago. So yeah, Long, Dodson, Cashman is how I'm going with this.
There we go. Johnny, what about you? Where are you putting these guys in order?
I mean, this could change next week. When I look at David Long, I mean, he's been incredibly productive. And if Tua doesn't come back, it's going to hurt them sustaining drives. Maybe that defense is on the field longer. The thing is with him, it's like going back to that Tony Adams mindset earlier. It's like David Long, we've seen him have double-digit tackle games, string them together, back-to-back weeks. But then he seems to fade. So, if we're looking for this week, obviously he played already. He had a great game. Like, to me, that's a difference maker. We're looking at rest of the season. Maybe Jordan Brooks is eased in. I don't think the snaps were really there week 1, but they increased into week 2. So I like Jordan Brooks. So maybe that steals a little bit of thunder away. I like the way that Tyrell Dodson, I was not high on Tyrell Dodson coming into the year, but this guy just defied the odds. I mean, he was making plays in the backfield looking like a safety wearing that number 0 jersey, and he had a standout game, double-digit tackles. I'm actually going to put him as number 1. And then to me, it's a really close call here with Cashman and David Long Jr. we're talking about starting Cashman over Zaire Franklin this week, and that's great. I confirmed that call. But to me, you got Ivan Pace in the wings. Maybe there's a like flip of a switch where Ivan Pace 1 week, maybe be week 3, week 4, takes the majority of snaps. I mean, Blake Cashman's looking really good right now, so that's tough feat to do for Ivan Pace. But the Ivan Pace factor scares me for Cashman. So I'm going to say Dodson. Then I'll go with Shawn and say Long Jr. and then put Cashman as a close third. If it's this week, it's a different answer. But rest of the season, I'm going Dodson, Long, and Cashman.
Gotcha. All righty. Well, we are getting closer to the end of the show. We got about 20 minutes, and we got a ton of questions. So I'm going to kind of speed up the pace on these, and we're gonna wrap it through. So Richard Malone here. Start 4: Aluakun, Roquan, Mafe, Quincy Williams, or Ernest Jones. Shawn, what are your 4 here?
Yeah, this is easy. He's got him listed in the order I'm starting him. I'm not starting Ernest Jones until I see him stay on the field for more than a third of the game.
Gotcha. What about you, Johnny? Are you starting Ernest Jones, or are you waiting to see his snaps improve?
I'll take the 4 linebackers. I think Ernest Jones is going to get an elevation of snaps. I mean, it might not be 100% originally, but I think it'll be gradual over time. And Ernest Jones is a dog. I mean, maybe the being a 2 linebacker sets now hurts his fantasy, but we know his upside. And I think with Mafe, he's got to get that sack to make good. So I'm just going to take the 4 linebackers, assuming this is a tackle heavy or a medium tackle. If you're getting half a point for a solo tackle, then it changes things. Maybe I throw Mafe in there. But I think these guys, excluding Ernest, are pretty safe. But Ernest's upside, I think, keeps him in there for me, and I think he plays more over time. So we'll see if that can start with week 2.
There we go. We got a offense question here from Fantasy Sports. Kenneth Walker out this week. Which 2 should I start? McConkey, Watson, Flower, or Zeke? Johnny, back to you. Which 2 are you picking?
So it's definitely going to be Zay Flowers. Then it comes down to Zeke and McConkey for me. McConkey had a nice week last week. Probably not going to get high, yardage. Probably doesn't score. So it's a gut call for this guy here, Fantasy Sports. To me, I think this is a good game for Zeke to get in the end zone, and if that's the case, then he's probably the better start. But I did like the safety blanket factor for McConkey, so I'll let that one. I'll pass it back to him on that one. But it's definitely Zay Flowers and one of those 2.
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to show this one up here. Speaking of, check out Johnny and his co-host Axon's IDP props for this weekend. If we have some time at the end, I've got another comment from Gary with those. We can kind of talk through some of those tackle props, but I want to get to the start sit questions first. So if you're watching and you're interested in that, stick around to the end of the show, and we'll cover that as we wrap up. But back to Stephen Nade Smith. I meant start 3 out of those linebackers. So let's go back to that question. Okay, so
Yep.
Start 3. So Al Shahir, EJ Speed, Kaiser White, or CJ Mosley. Really quickly, which 3 would you be starting? Shawn, I'll kick it to you first, and then we'll go to Johnny.
Give me White, Speed, and then Mosley.
All right. And Johnny, who are you not starting?
I'll back Shawn on this one.
There we go. All right. White, Speed, and Mosley for that start. All right, here we go. Jamie 54CB. Should I start Byron Young at DL or pivot to someone off waivers? Johnny, what are your thoughts here? You feeling confident in Young, or do you want to check the waiver wire for someone to be named later?
Yeah, I say give it another week. I mean, unless there's somebody out there, who you really have a good feeling about, not only this week but down the line. I mean, Byron Young is he's like that, and he's not a sack or hurt you kind of guy. He gets tackles too. So I'm just gonna, think that better days are ahead with Byron Young, and I'm gonna play him and start him this week, and maybe look at next week if he doesn't perform. If you don't like the snap percentage, if you don't like the results, then look at it. But I still think Byron Young, I'm backing him. I still like him a lot at the DL position.
Gotcha. Shawn, are you feeling good about Young?
Yeah, the Cardinals gave up, like 5 sacks last week. Yeah, I'm starting Young this week.
Nice. Andrea Micheletto, Duggar or McDuffie, Shawn?
I'm going to assume this is Trent McDuffie. So, oh, man. I don't usually like starting corners over safeties. I know Duggar was a little banged up. I'm going to take McDuffie, though.
All right. Johnny, what are your thoughts here? Duggar or McDuffie?
Well, it's a 1 o'clock game, so at least you have that on your side with Duggar. But if he does play, I'll take Duggar in this one. I think just a safe tackle floor, and he's a vet, so as long as he's not too banged up, I think he's out there. His abilities aren't limited that much, so I think Duggar is solid. 4 or 5 tackles. That's what you can bank on. I'm worried about McDuffie if he's staying on Jamar Chase. Maybe that's a good thing, but maybe he kind of shuts him down a little bit. So yeah, it's tough to roll with the corner. I get the upside with it. But to me, I'm just staying safe on this one. Kyle Duggar's a top 12 defensive back start, so I'll roll with him.
There we go. All right, back to Jamie. Thoughts on Bobby Okereke? Start him or go into waivers and pick up someone like Ellis, Pace, Mac Wilson, or Campbell? I'll throw it back to you, Johnny. Are you running with Bobby O, or are you picking up one of these guys and starting them?
As much as I, don't love the matchup versus Washington, I'm still going to sit with Bobby O. I definitely don't think you drop him. Like these guys, Caden Ellis is a guy who played 100% of snaps. Pace didn't. Mac Wilson only 63%. Campbell, wasn't the guy who we thought he was going to be. So until those things come to fruition, Bobby O is a top 3, top 5 at worst linebacker in IDP. May not get it done this week. It's not a great matchup, but yeah, you're going to be chasing him if you drop him this week anyway, next week. So I think Bobby O is the guy. Trust in him and, live for another day.
Gotcha. Shawn, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I'm not dropping my top linebacker just yet.
Gotcha. Here we go. Let's go back to Micheletto. Pick one. Zach Bond, Logan Wilson, Quincy Williams. Shawn, who you got?
Oh, boy. This hurts. Only pick one. This is terrible. Terribly hard. You got really great options. I kind of want to go with Logan Wilson here because I do think the Chiefs will get up and start pounding Pacheco.
Gotcha. Johnny, what are you thinking?
I think Logan Wilson is the safe floor call. If you're looking for high, if I'm in this predicament, I'm taking Zach Bond. Now, I understand Logan Wilson. If you're trying to stay safe and things are looking good already from Thursday, then I think Logan Wilson's a good call. But I think this Zach Bond, at least for this week, is going to be real again. So I'll fire up Zach Bond, chase the upside.
Gotcha. And Jamie has a more of a strategy question. He says, I'm still new to IDP. What gives player the most points? Is it tackle, sacks, pass deflections? So the easy answer is look at your scoring for your league because that's going to directly tell you how many points you get. But as far as the availability or the more likely to happen, it really kind of comes down to tackles. Those are the consistent stats that come in, whereas sacks, like you don't hear about someone getting 30 sacks or most 18 sacks, which would be 1 a game. That's very rare, and if someone does that, you're now exceeding records, and you're probably punching your ticket to the Hall of Fame like immediately. Pass deflects is a really good stat for cornerbacks and safeties. It is also a good way of making them kind of relevant in comparison to tackles because your good cornerback and safeties will be the ones getting the pass deflects, whereas the bad cornerback safeties will be getting the tackles. But with that, let me ask you guys, Shawn, what are your thoughts on this from a standpoint of like, do you prefer to play in leagues where tackles is kind of the main stat?
Yeah, it's always been the tackles for me. Sacks, pass deflections, those have always been bonuses on top. That's why guys like Max Crosby is usually your top edge rusher to go off. It's not because he has the most sacks every year. It's because he has all those tackles plus the sacks. Tadil Hunter is a guy who always had a lot of tackles as well. He usually would get about 50 tackles plus a dozen sacks. So that's why he's always higher. That's what you go for. You won't the tackles give you that high safe floor, and then sacks and pass deflections can be on top of that. Same thing, cornerbacks. You want the guys that are getting all the tackles, playing in the slot where they're close to the line of scrimmage. They have those opportunities. Deflections, interceptions, all that are bonuses.
Johnny, what are your thoughts here?
So yeah, good point about scoring, but for me, it doesn't matter. The scoring, like tackle heavy, will be anywhere from 1.5 to 2 points for a solo, 0.75 to 1 point for that assist. So to me, it doesn't even matter if it's not tackle heavy. That's what I'm chasing. That's my niche. It's easier to gauge like tackles versus sacks, especially versus pass deflections. Just stick to your bread and butter. I mean, we have a lot of good resources here on IDP Plus to gauge these tackles. We put a lot of time into it. That's what I do with the show with Axton. So to me, I think the tackles is the easiest to gauge. Like Shawn said, it's the thing that happens the most. And so regardless of scoring or not, I'm going to continue to maintain my platform of backing the tackles over all the other stats available.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you bring up a really great point, especially if you're new to IDP, go lean on us at idpplus.com. Become a subscriber. We have a promo code right now of props. If you use props at checkout, it's 20% off any subscription right now. So you can go become a subscriber, join our Discord channel for subscribers. It's probably our best resource among everything because you just get direct access to us, ask us questions. We're there. Shawn's usually one of the first to jump in and answer those questions. We'll help you out. We'll look at your waiver wire. We'll look through your draft as you're doing it, help you out each week with start sits directly. And then there's just other resources. We have great beginning IDP articles that are free to read. We have some really great tools that'll show you the consistency week over week and what other teams to target when you're looking to identify potential plays, pickups, starts, and everything. So let's keep on moving here with Richard Malone, Ashawn Robinson, Zach Allen, Sam Hubbard are his defensive lines. Are there any sleeper DLs he could swap one for? So I guess are you dropping any of these guys to pick someone up off the waiver, and who might that be? Shawn?
I would say Ashawn Robinson already is a sleeper. Nobody was really looking at him coming into the season. He had a really nice week 1, and with Derek Brown out now, his role is going to be even higher. So I would stick with what you have here without actually being able to see your list and who's out there. I think these are all really solid options.
Gotcha. Johnny, what are your thoughts?
You're muted.
Thank you. I like Robinson and Allen here. As far as deep DL sleepers, I mean, unless like a Jonathan Cooper or a Keon White is out there, I wouldn't really sub anything. And it's a volatile position. These are good mid-tier options to have. Ashawn Robinson had a really impressive debut last week, so keep what's rolling out there, throw it out and see if it works again. Zach Allen, I'm not sure how to really take this with the Justin Fields. Maybe that limits his ability. Sam Hubbard, a good point again is I look on what he's done. Sam Hubbard, type in Sam Hubbard versus the Chiefs and see his stat line for his career, and maybe that's a determining factor too. I don't have that available to me, but that's what kind of how I take these three. Ashawn Robinson, you're not going to have much history to gauge it on, but Allen and Hubbard you should. So I think Robinson and Allen are the two that I'm rolling with here. Gotcha. But Keon White and Jonathan Cooper would be guys that I probably would have over them.
There you go. Nice. All right. Is Peppers worth a stash if he's on waivers? Johnny, what do you think?
I'm going to say no. I don't think he's really worth a stash. He's like a, plug and chug, 1 week type of guy if you have an injury, but really doesn't have the upside. We see him kind of fade from week to week. And, right now this week, he's a fine start, but I don't think you'd need to stash Jabril Peppers.
Gotcha. Sean, are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'm not looking to stash very many defensive backs at all. We see them as rotational pieces. We can take them out each week. There's only a few you're going to hold on to all year long. Peppers isn't one of them, but you will play matchups.
All right. And here's our last question that we've got before we talk a little bit of NFL betting here, tackle props. Malone asking, needs to start 4. He's got Aluakun, Smith, Moffitt, Williams, Cooper, Franklin, and Jones. This question feels familiar, but Sean, let's go back to you. And which 4 are you starting?
Yeah, this guy, he needs a linebacker. These are terrible choices. No, this guy's got all kinds of wealth. It's Aluakun, Smith, Williams, and Franklin. I'm not taking Boye if if I can help it. He's got to get the sack for it to really count. Jones, I'm out on again until I can see his production increase for him to get more. I guess more of the playing time, not really the production. He just needs to be on the field. Right now, he's still that second string guy. And Cooper, same thing. Eventually, he'll start taking over. But right now, he's still the second string guy to Isaiah McDuffie.
Johnny, what are your thoughts here? Which 4 are you picking?
Sean nailed it out of the park, man. That's the exact 4 I would have gone. Aluakun, Smith, Quincy, and Zaire. Easy choice.
Gotcha. All right. Let's talk a little bit some tackle props here. Gary teed us up with 4 choices here. I'm assuming this is coming from your IDP prop show. So definitely make sure if you're liking these, go over to the IDP Plus Bets channel and make sure to subscribe, watch the show. They put a lot of time, effort, and it's been profitable. So we got Antonio Johnson over 5.5 total tackles for plus 114. Paulson Adebo over 5.5 at even money at plus 100. Mac Wilson over 4.5 for plus 100. And Blake Cashman over 8.5 plus 105. So I'm sure Johnny's already given his opinions on these, but Sean, you're also deep into this sports betting stuff. So what are your thoughts on these? And do you agree? Should people be tailing these?
Yeah, absolutely. Mac Wilson wasn't the full starter for the Cardinals, but he was highly productive in, I want to say 60% range, I think is what he played. Highly productive. We're expecting, a lot of IDP players to go off in this game. We've been talking about that all day. So I definitely like that one. Antonio Johnson is somebody I was big on last year coming out of the draft. And to see him sit on the bench basically all year kind of hurt me because he was actually my favorite safety out of the bunch. So he is now the starter. I think he's in line for a big day as well. The only guy that was really in his way was Darnell Savage kind of being in the slot, and he underproduced, and he's actually out for the game. Tyson Campbell was out for the game, their main starting corner. So these are more opportunities for him to kind of get in on. So I do like that. And Paulson Adebo with, I think Marshawn Lattimore is out, or was at least leaning to be out. So I don't know if he will kick outside to help or if he's in the slot this week, but he's a high tackle guy, him and Alontae Taylor both. So I kind of like props on both those guys. Cashman worries me a little bit, but I think this is a good matchup for him. And yeah, that the Niners offense is rolling. He's going to get some tackles. He is the main guy out there playing about 85, 90% of the snaps. So he's got the best shot, I think, of anybody out there on that Vikings team to hit. So I like all these.
Nice. Well, if you're watching this, you want to make these bets and you haven't yet set up an account, go to idpplus.com/FanDuel or idpplus.com/DraftKings. Get a special boost to your first deposit match, or bonus bets that are offered through us with FanDuel or DraftKings, and then place these bets. But Johnny, as we kind of wrap up here, you've already given your thoughts in your own show, so people can go and watch that. But if you were to parlay these, would you do any of these as a parlay, or are you just strictly straight bets?
So last week I actually hit one. EJ Speed over 7.5 was one that I loved the over. He had plus odds, so I paired that. I want to say with TJ Edwards 5.5, just solo tackles, along with like Patrick Mahomes and I forget another quarterback. It might have been Stafford, just their lowest alternate yards to get that little boost. $12 won me 85 there. And Axton and I recorded this betting show on Friday. It is generally better to put these bets, these parlays in earlier in the week because the odds are better. So, picking in my mindset here, the ones I chose out of this bunch, some of them were Axton's. I chose Antonio Johnson. That was for this week, it's over 5.5 total. He had 9 last week. Highly touted guy. This is the guy who we thought we were going to be. Shawn Jenkins is out. Only Andre Cisco is there. Don't love the matchup, but when he had a good track record, as far as good hype, I should say, coming into week 1 and then put 9 tackles. I think when you're getting plus odds here for 5.5, it's a good bet. Blake Cashman, another caveat, these lines change. Like I said, it's better to put them in. So 8.5 is still his over on combined tackles. But if you don't like that, I think a safer bet would be looking at his solos strictly and going 4.5 and take the over on that. I do think he gets 5 or more solo tackles. It is minus 154 odds, so that changes the juice a little bit, but I think it's more bankable. Mac Wilson only played 63%, but he had, I want to say 9 or 10 tackles in his debut, did great. So I expect in a juicy matchup versus the Rams, him to, do better. Right now, if you look at his solos, he is only 2.5. That's his over and under. So I'm smashing the over on his on Mac Wilson's solo tackles, over 2.5. I believe it's minus 140 is the odds on that. That's another bankable one. Another one that I wanted to mention is Julian Love, a guy that I love so much. He's number 2 in my D-back rankings this week. I believe was number 3 last week. Had a terrific game. His over on solos is 4.5, and I don't think it's a shoe-in, but when you're getting plus 114 odds on something that I consider pretty likely, I love Julian Love there. And I actually have thrown in some bets, some parlays. I kind of like to do one that's plus odds. So I'll throw like an Antonio Johnson plus 114, Julian Love plus 114, maybe a Kaiser White over what was it? Is it 5.5? Over 4.5? That's plus odds there. Then you throw some safe bets, maybe like Jalen McMillan over 15 alternate receiving yards. I think he's going to have a nice game. Chris Olave under 80.5 yards. Like that's the kind of parlays I like to do. So take a couple of these tackle props, do what you do best, and mix them with them. Play your safe takes, whatever that may be, punts, field goals, defensive stops, sacks, and throw in a couple of these tackle bets in there. There's some great ones out this week. There were some great ones last week. EJ Speed. That's the thing about this betting is, you might get 7.5 and you have that hunch on him and it works the last week, but now he's 9.5. That's steep, so Vegas is on to him now. I didn't touch that. Blake Cashman over, anytime you get it, over 8.5, 9.5, that's a tough feat to happen. And usually I like to wait till like week 5, week 7 to kind of gauge consistency before I hit on those high numbers, but get sneaky with it. Look at assists, look at solos strictly, and there's some good odds when you look away from just combined tackles.
Yeah.
So for like these 4 in particular, I would bet each one of these single, and then I would add a parlay of all 4 of them as well. I think that's probably that's the funnest way to go about it. So you can still win some money, and if they all hit, then you win a good chunk of money. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to hit our last question. This comes from Jamie, and he just asked for thoughts on Darrell Taylor. He had a monster game last week. think he's a person to look after. Let's go back to you, Shawn. What are your thoughts on Darrell Taylor? And we can wrap this up with Johnny.
The biggest thing to look at here is how bad the Titans offensive line is. And I will play against the Titans offensive line. I will play against the Giants offensive line probably all year long because they are bad and they always give up big plays like this. So if I have the room to put him on my roster, I will do so. But I'm not starting him just yet until I see the consistency I need to really throw him in.
Gotcha. What about you, Johnny? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a player who was traded for. They saw something in him, bringing him over from Seattle. So that makes it sit well with me that this might stick. Again, a guy that got sacks as well as a high tackle floor and high tackle rate. So that's a dangerous mix and a very valuable mix in IDP if this sticks. Probably not somebody who I'm considering as a top 35 or 40 even defensive lineman. But at the same time, if you can stash him, I think that's a fine stash. See if this magic is really the truth and get back at it for week 3. It might not be your guy this week. If you're really struggling and you have nobody out there you feel, then I think it's a good, plug him in and pray for the best. But I think this is a good stash, and the chances are it might be, not that real, 2 sacks and 10 tackles. But I think he's going to be a pretty useful player. And, again, come down to the opportunity. Check after this week, check the snap counts, snap percentages, see if those numbers fit the bill. And if they are, and he has a nice performance this week, then you at least have, someone to fall back on, if not a good trade piece. So I like Taylor.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining this week for the Start Sit show. We should be back to regular programming with Ricky, Michael, and Shawn of the Bed. I didn't mention it at the top of the show, but that's such a great, funny name for you. I don't know how after 2 years you're still coming up with new names to input there for yourself there, Shawn. But you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nate Cheat. Johnny here is at Johnny Freaking F1. Also Johnny Freaking Fantasy. Shawn of the Bed at Shawn8386. Guys, it was a pleasure. Always happy to jump on and talk ball with you guys. And for everyone out there, make sure you're going to idpplus.com, following us at IDP_plus on Twitter, and just taking in all the IDP content. Let's, we're the degenerates out there. We're loving those defense. We're built different than those offensive guys. See ya.